Hi, folks. Wanted to talk a little bit about Ringo Starr, and in particular his back catalog and his solo career. It's going to be a relatively brief video. I'm not going to go into exhaustive detail or anything like that. What really got me inspired to do this was a recent video by Beatles, who discussed his feelings. And of course, I want to make this clear from the outset. Everybody has their own opinion. Nobody's is right, nobody's is wrong. So let's get that out of the way, first of all. But I was inspired to make kind of a response to this. The question was asked by Beatles, and a lot of people out there, I'm sure, ask the same question when it comes to Ringo Starr and his albums. Do you buy these because you really want to buy them, or do you buy them because it's a, quote, loyalty purchase? And then people ask the question, would you really be buying this record by Ringo or this series of albums by Ringo? Would you have ever supported Ringo's solo career had he not been the drummer for the Beatles? All right, let's deal with these two first of all, okay? Well, probably not. Probably if Ringo Starr had not been in the Beatles, I probably wouldn't have bothered. Although I'll tell you this, when I was just a boy, I went out and I bought the great 45 with the picture sleeve of Photograph because it was a great song. You know, that was a great number one song no matter what, Photograph. And the same thing for It Don't Come Easy, which was another great single. I think songs like that, a lot of us, even the Ringo dissenters, would agree that some early 70s songs and singles were really good by Ringo. In fact, don't forget, John Lennon himself once jokingly, but with a little bit of seriousness on the side in it, sent Ringo at the beginning of the solo career a little telegram that said, "Congratulations, how dare you, and please write me a hit song." Because Ringo was doing better than John was, and maybe even his fellow Beatles altogether in the beginning. You know, the self-titled Ringo album, which even the most anti-Ringo person will admit, is a really great Ringo record, a great album in general, and definitely one of the best of all solo albums, the self-titled Ringo album from 1973. Do you know that's the only solo Beatles album to have two number one songs on it? Photograph, which I mentioned, and You're 16 both hit number one. It has the distinction of being the only solo Beatle record, and that includes Paul McCartney, to have two number one songs on it. All right, we've established, and I'm sure everybody agrees, that Ringo, self-titled, is a great album. But you see, the thing is, I don't understand this whole thing about when people say, and by the way, this is not just my friend Beatles, that was the inspiration to make this video, but this is something that I've been feeling aside from Beatles' video, just in general. You know, he gave me the inspiration, but I'm not addressing him here. I'm addressing Ringo fans or non-fans in general. I don't understand when people say, if it wasn't for such and such a fact, you probably wouldn't even be interested, and you probably wouldn't even be listening or buying their product. For example, people will say, like we said, if Ringo wasn't in the Beatles, would you be listening to him? Probably not, but as I said, the hits stood up for themselves back in the 70s. But is it a bad thing? Does it matter why you get interested or intrigued by an artist? He's in the Beatles. I respect and like all the Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Therefore, I'm interested in listening to all four of them. I'm interested in following their careers. I'm interested in the things they say. I'm interested in the thoughts they have, interested in their life, what's going on, aside from the music. And I'm interested in all their musical output. To me, that's what it means to be a Beatles fan. Your mileage may vary, but to me, it's all about those four men. And it's not so much a loyalty thing as it should be, in my opinion, a natural intrigue. You know, I'm surprised when there's some Beatle fans who say, yeah, you know, I'm intrigued by all the four men of the Beatles. They're all great, you know. But when it comes to Ringo, nah, I don't have any interest. Not sure I understand that, you know. But there are a lot of reasons why you get into an artist that you might not have been interested in otherwise. Let's take, again, the Beatles, right? I play Yoko Ono albums. Some of the Yoko Ono albums I like. Some of them I don't like. Why am I interested? If Yoko Ono had been on her own, would I be listening to her if she had never been with John Lennon? Probably not. Does it matter? You know what I mean? Whether it's that somebody at work says, "Hey, I heard of this new band. I want you to listen to this band," and you listen to it, you like them. I mean, is there any point in somebody saying, "Hey, if it wasn't for your friend turning you on to this group, would you ever heard of them on your own?" What the hell's the difference? The reason. One more example. I was a big fan of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and she had the big hit in 1982, I Love Rock and Roll. I never knew she had another band. So once I got into Joan Jett as a solo artist, I discovered later that, hey, she was in a girl group, the Runaways. And because I liked Joan Jett, I said, I think I'll check out the Runaways. And I like the Runaways. Not all of it. Some of it I don't like as much as others. I have my favorites and my lesser favorites. But the thing is, so flippin' what? If the only reason I even heard of the Runaways was because Joan Jett was in it. See, that argument that a lot of people make, I noticed them in the comments below Beatles Tone's video making that comment, that observation. What? I just don't see what the heck it matters. How or why you get interested in an artist. Would you have been interested in an artist? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you have a dad that was into Johnny Cash, and growing up, he got you into Johnny Cash, and you became interested. And somebody says, would you really be interested in Johnny Cash if it wasn't for your dad? Come on, folks. This is a moot point, okay? So that's the first thing. Let's talk about the loyalty purchases thing. Would you say when I buy Ringo Starr's music, it's due to loyalty for Ringo and the Beatles? I'm not ashamed to say partly, yes. Not only, but partly. Well, I make no bones about it. I'm not ashamed of it to say that I am a Beatles fan, all four Beatles, and four solo Beatles, including Ringo. And I love the Bad Boy album, too, which is considered a poor album, but I like it. I think it's underrated. Not the greatest, but I like it. But, I make no apologies for the fact that I'm interested, as I said earlier, in what all four members of that group do. I'm interested in them. I like Ringo as a person. I like Ringo as a comedian. I think he's the lovable, charming, funny Ringo that we all know, and he has a lot of schmaltz about him, and he has a quality about him that makes him stand out. And he's just fun, and because of that, I'm interested in Ringo's albums. So there are two things. I'm loyal in the sense that his albums may be a loyalty purchase because I'm also a Beatles completist when it comes to their albums. Now, I know that's not everybody out there, but I'm a completist when it comes to all the Beatles music group and solo. Therefore, when all the solo Beatles, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, put out solo music, I'm a loyalist in that regard, that I am a completist for their library. I won't say I don't and I haven't bought everything they ever released of any type, but when it comes to the actual albums, the songs, the music, yes, I'm a loyalist. I keep saying loyalist, a loyalist, excuse me, when it comes to that. But at the same time, I do look forward to it. I'm looking real forward to Ringo's upcoming country album called Look Up, which is coming out January the 10th of 2025. Every time there's a new Ringo album, a new Paul McCartney album, and it used to be John and George, anytime there's a new album or new material or something, or whether it's bonus tracks or something we haven't heard before, of course, I'm going to pick it up, number one, because I'm a loyalist and a completist, but also because I'm genuinely interested in it. I want to hear it. I want to know what it's going to be like. I want to get the latest product from them. And then the question comes, yeah, but Ringo's just Ringo. Ringo's not as good as John Lennon, Paul McCartney, or George Harrison. Okay, maybe not. So, who says, where is it written that Ringo has to be on par with John, Paul, or George? I mean, some people may say he is. Okay, that's good for you. But the thing is, who says he has to be? He could just be Ringo. I don't understand it. I don't say, well, gee, Ringo Starr is no Paul McCartney. He's not exactly George Harrison and John Lennon. I don't care. He's Ringo Starr, and I'm interested. So That's the next thing I want to say. I've often made a point of something when it comes to Ringo Starr's solo work. Say that when his stuff comes out, I don't judge it alongside John, Paul, or George. I consider it a Ringo record. Now, some challenged me on that. Some people have said, well, you're giving Ringo a free pass. Because I often say, don't judge it as a regular album by any artist. Don't judge a new Ringo album as an album of the Beatles. Judge it as what it is, Ringo. How is it as a Ringo album? And I often have a saying that I've said for many years. I remember saying it beginning in 1981 with the Stop and Smell the Roses, which I feel is an exceptional album for Ringo. I say, and I said then, Stop and Smell the Roses, it's a good Ringo record. Okay, I'd say it's great for just anybody, but when I listen to Ringo, I accept that this is the man we're talking about. This is his strengths and weaknesses. How is it as a Ringo record? I do the same thing a lot of times with movies as well. Get off on a tangent here a little bit. Maybe like I love horror movies, and somebody will say, "Well, what do you think of this horror movie?" And I say, "Well, as a horror movie, it's very good. It's a very good horror movie." If you ask me, how is it as a regular movie? Maybe not as good as, I don't know, Casablanca. Maybe not as good as Citizen Kane, but you see where I'm going with this? And that's what I do. There are good Ringo records and there are not so good Ringo records. I would challenge that there are a lot of good songs. If you take Ringo's catalog, and now I don't know how many albums there are at least 20 albums by Ringo. That's counting his EPs, the EPs that he's made and his LPs. When you put them all together, there's got to be 20 something albums by now. And I think that if you really have an open mind and you say, okay, I'm not expecting to hear Band on the Run here, I'm not expecting to hear Imagine or Plastic Ono Band or All Things Must Pass, but this is just Ringo having a good time being Ringo, you know. Some of the albums have really good songs on them. Some of them don't. Some of them, are and were flops. I'm not saying everything Ringo did is great. Far from it. But I'm just saying, you'd be surprised if you have this attitude and go in with an open mind and judge him as Ringo Starr, not as anybody else, and don't sit here and have a negative attitude about it. You're gonna find out there are a lot of good songs that you can't believe. I mean, I could name songs all day, but like off the album Ringo Rama, for example, there's so many good tunes on there. There's a great song called Memphis in Your Mind you might not know about. One of the EPs, I think it was EP3, the third one. I think it's that one. It has a song called Free Your Soul, which is very like jazzy. It sounds like an island sound. I mean, there's different sounds, there's different feelings to a lot of the songs. But you got to be open-minded. You got to be willing to do it. So I didn't want to make this much longer than this. As I say, this is not a knock at Beatley Tone per se. He was just giving his opinion, and he's welcome to it. I'm giving my opinion, but it made me think about a bigger picture, going past Beatley Tone, going past me, and thinking of people out there that might just say, "Oh, Ringo, he's the drummer. I'm not interested in Ringo." I think you're missing a lot of potential good tracks. Over and out.